And we refuse to allow those who have selfish political ambitions, the selfish political ambitions of selfish politicians or selfish political parties, to continue or endeavor to divide us in order to continue to subjugate us. And I believe that the person that God has raised up for such a crucial time in this nation, for this nation, is Mr. Donald Trump.
And welcome back to Hannity, and we are on the road at the Civic Center. We're in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. That, of course, Pastor Scott, Reverend Pastor Scott, talking about Donald Trump earlier today. He joins us along with radio talk show host Reverend C.L. Bryant. Don King is here with us as we continue the 2016 Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. As I promised, I am turning it over to the audience. Sir, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. How you doing, Mr. Trump?
How are you?
Good. My name is Ricardo Sims, and I had a question about, there's been a lot of violence in the black community. I want to know, what would you do to help stop that violence, you know, black on black crime?
Right. Well, one of the things I'd do, Ricardo, is I would do stop and frisk. I think you have to. We did it in New York. It worked incredibly well. And you have to be proactive. And, you know, you really help people sort of change their mind automatically. You understand. You have to have, in my opinion, I see what's going on here. I see what's going on in Chicago. I think stop and frisk. In New York City, it was so incredible the way it worked. Now, we had a very good mayor, but New York City was incredible the way that worked. So I think that would be one step you could do.
I'll just add one thing to Mr. Trump's comments. The murder rate was around 2,500, a very high percentage of African Americans, and it went down below 500 because of the increased police activity in community. So it was lives saved every year because of the concern and the resources. Pastor Scott, you see the violence. I gave the numbers about Chicago. How does this end?
Well, you have to change minds in order to change activities. So if we can, Mr. Trump has talked about stimulating the economy and providing jobs. I talked to Mr. Trump in Trump Tower about this issue, and he told me he believes a major source of crime is unemployment and lack of income. So if he can solve that job problem and we improve our living conditions, it would cause a change in mind, which would cause a change in action.
It starts with education. You have talked, explain, I think this education thing is not talked about enough.
Well, the inner cities are a disaster as far as schools are concerned, education. You know, we build schools all over the Middle East, and yet we don't build schools for our own children. The schools in the inner city, the jobs, and really what Darrell said is 100%. We don't have, you know, our jobs are being stolen from us. They're going to other countries. And the inner cities are absolutely being devastated in terms of jobs. You can speak to some people, 50-year-old men, great people, great men. I don't know if they're as good as Don King, but they're pretty good, right? and these are people that had great jobs, and they don't have their job anymore. And the job is moved to Mexico. Their factories have moved, their manufacturing's moved to Mexico. And we're not going to let that happen anymore, and we can stop it so easily.
So, Pastor Bryant, I was a paper boy at 8, washed dishes by hand at 12, a cook at 13, a busboy at 14, a waiter at 15, a bartender at 17, and then I worked the next 7 years in construction, building houses, laying tile, painting, and hanging paper. 55% of black teenagers cannot get a summer job. If I didn't have those jobs, I would have been hanging out with all my dopey friends and getting in a lot of trouble.
Right. And you know, Sean, in order to tap into the free market and understand capitalism and, of course, make the best of what America has to offer, you need an example. And for too many inner city young people, there's no example of how to make money. That's one of the reasons why I think that Mr. Trump will be a perfect president for this present time to African-American youth, because he can show the way.
What do you think as a pastor, and I'll ask both of you pastors, and we'll ask Duncan, when they play the race card and they run Klan ads against Donald Trump, I can't think of anything more despicable. If I remember, Pastor, my theology class was right. Thou shalt not bear false witness was one of the Big Ten. What do you think when you see that? What is
Well,
that?
I think that because they can't attack him on policy, they try to make it personal. They appeal to the emotions and the sensitivities of not only the black community, but the foreigners and females. So they'll say, don't vote for Donald Trump, females, and they'll arouse those emotions. He's a misogynist. He suppresses and dominates women. Don't vote for him, blacks or Hispanics, because he's a racist, and don't vote for him, foreigners, because he's a xenophobe. So they attack him and try to make personal, but they don't attack him politically because that's all they have.
But well, that's a good point. And I will say this, because this is important. Those statistics, Don King, you have more diamonds on you than anybody I've ever seen. I think we got to show that cross there to the pastor. That's the biggest one I've ever seen. But Don King, you are an example of an entrepreneur, hardworking, that made money in America, not the statistics that I'm reading. What advice can you give, and what are you asking Donald Trump to do for the black community?
Well, what I'm asking Donald Trump to do is what Donald Trump volunteered to do, is to change the system. It doesn't matter about whatever we see, right, wrong, or indifferent. If the system don't change, it's going to be the same. So they say, well, why would make Donald Trump different from Obama or any other president? Because he will call them out. The same as he did with Lindsey Tucker, what's his name? Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham. If you say something to him, he's a fighter. He's gonna fight back. So what the difference is, he would tell on the people who are obstreperous, that are blocking the change for the progressive of human beings. First of all, for blacks, we got to first be included. We could do all this talk about what you're going to do about jobs, what you're going to do about this. If you ain't included in the system, do not include us. You know, a white woman, they don't include you. You know what I mean? So you got the first, and he's the first one that came up with that. He wants to first create a whole new system, take this system apart, and then put people together to work together. Each one have a part in it to be able to make it happen. Working collectively together, working together works.
Mr. Trump, this is the Diversity Coalition, and we have a diverse audience here tonight. What does it mean to you to see people of all races and all religions and all backgrounds going to bat for you in this election the way they are?
Well, it means a lot, and Don King is an example. First of all, he's a great entrepreneur. You know, he's the greatest boxing promoter ever, but that's the ultimate entrepreneur. And Don King has been my friend for 25 years. He knows me better than most people know me.
That's correct.
And when he called me, and this wasn't just recently, a long time ago, he endorsed me for president. And I shouldn't tell him this. I think he endorsed Bernie Sanders for vice president.
Yes.
So we can't say that.
But number one, number two, you know
We're very happy with Mike Pence. I have to be. Where's Mike? He's around here.
Mike's here.
Well, Mike's is advent because Bernie couldn't stand up. He couldn't give up that party loyalty. But he was the number one and number two vote getters.
You were doing great up till now. You really were.
It was the people that would be the ones. You know, I look at, like, when we first started in this country, the two highest votes would be, the highest would be president, and the second would be vice president. That would be four parties.
Right.
You know what I mean? The two vote getters would get that.
I think America wants success and results.
Right.
They want results, and that's what he spells. And
They're tired. They're
he's
hurting.
the epitome of it. He's the spirit of America. John Paul Jones, you know, when the captain said, "Do you surrender? Do you surrender?" He said, "I have not yet begun to fight." Commandeered the British ship, you know what I mean, and went on and navigated himself to the promised land.